What's going on, guys? It's Nathan. Welcome to another episode of Hyperspace. This is episode 12. Crazy to think we've even made it this far, but we have a stacked show of topics today. Most of them dropping today as well. It's insane. We're all going to talk about it. We got a full crew today. Joining us once again, we got Evan.
Hey guys, it's crazy how stacked this show is. Just a few hours ago, earlier today, I thought, we're gonna have to talk about Clone Wars today. That's about pretty much it. Maybe some comic book stuff. But then all of a sudden, we had those huge Mandalorian news drop, and now there's a ton of stuff to talk about. So I cannot wait to talk about Ahsoka, Mando, and everything going on with that.
Awesome. Also joining us today, we got Carson back.
What's going on, guys? Like Evan said, another Star Wars Friday that starts out quiet, and then all of a sudden it just ensues into 7 different rumors and like 2 confirmed things and unconfirmed things. So we're gonna kind of decipher it all here on Hyperspace Hype.
And also joining us once again, we got Brandon.
Hey everyone, good to be back. Yeah, like everyone else said, we have a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. And Nathan, I just want to say right here, I did not get a notification you went live, so I don't think notifications went out. So, yeah, not sure. But yeah, good to be back.
I got a notification, I think. Yeah.
Oh, now
I
it
got
just
a
went out.
notification.
Yeah. Now it just hit.
We're good.
Move in.
Our new mascot. No, but
more screen time than Rose Tico. Okay, continue.
Oh, that's
ooh. Caution with the hot takes. Gotta love it.
Anyway, we have a new episode of Clone Wars this week. We're on the 5th episode of the season. We're almost halfway through, which is sad, but also exciting. We're starting a brand new arc. We have the episode Gone with the Trace, where we got Ahsoka back in 1313 levels. How'd you guys feel about the episode?
It's a mixed bag. I don't think it was anything too special, nothing too crazy, nothing too. I mean, not the best, not the worst. So it was good though.
I liked it. It was. I was thinking about this earlier, like what I was going to talk about in this segment, and to me, the Bad Batch is a smaller scale arc, just because of what we were expecting. Like long term, of course, with this being the conclusion of the Clone Wars. But I was glad to kind of return to this this underworld kind of, low stakes conflict. And I feel like there was a lot of moments that allowed Ahsoka's character to kind of catch her breath and kind of reflect. And I really thought that there was a lot of great subtle nods between her dynamic with these sisters and just her kind of being in a different lifestyle for, having left the Order. I thought it was kind of it was great. It was a great episode to reintroduce us to where her head's at going into this season.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that too. You say it was like a breath of fresh air for Ahsoka. I think it was a breath of fresh air for the audience as well, because the first 4 episodes of this whole Clone Wars Bad Batch arc was action packed. Like especially the last episode was very action packed. So this was more of a calmer episode, more subdued and stuff. I really liked that. Like Carson said, I love the subtle nods to everything that she experienced and everything that she is still connected to with the Jedi and the upper levels of Coruscant. I really love that, especially the moment where she called Anakin like a older brother.
An older brother.
I really liked that. I was like, oh man, because either like when you're watching the show, you're like, okay, it's just like a father and daughter, brother and sister, but yeah, it's definitely like a brother and sister relationship here with Anakin and Ahsoka. I really liked that.
Yeah, I think that's the term for me is change of pace. I mean, I think that's the better way to use it. Like it was a good episode. It was a change of pace from the Bad Batch.
Brandon, your mic.
Your mic went out or something.
Better? Hello?
No.
It sounds like you're using the computer audio or something now.
Hold on. What's wrong? The audio went out.
Yep.
Oh, you're back.
There you're back.
Okay, it's back now. Okay.
Yeah.
That was scary.
Hey, Rob, by the way. But yeah, definitely change of pace compared to the Bad Batch. That's the term to use for it. It was a good episode, change of pace. And like, I'd like to talk about it more with you guys. Talk about some of the things I did like, some of the things I kind of didn't like. But yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the characterization introducing these sisters. I think they made an impression on me for sure. And I loved Ahsoka's dynamic with them. It was fun running around 1313. I think I'd place the. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite episode. I think I still liked it more than episode 3.
Me too.
Yeah. And two things I really liked from like a characterization standpoint. I really liked how when the first sister, I'm blanking on her name, Rafa is first talking about the Jedi. Ahsoka instinctively like defends them.
Oh, Trace is talking about the Jedi.
You think about
when Trace is talking about the Jedi, she like Ahsoka instinctively defends them, and as the episode goes on, you kind of Ahsoka gets to see kind of like the selflessness in the sister of like helping her, and not needing a reason, or in this case a war, to go like be the selfless leader. And so I thought that was a really good kind of parallel with the Jedi of like everything happening in the galaxy, and kind of everything she's left, and kind of seeing people operate on different level.
Something I've noticed is like more and more people are starting to realize that Republic's going to fall. Like the sisters even brought that up. Everyone's now noticing that the Republic's going to fall, and it works out because there's like 2 or 3 weeks from when that happens now.
Yeah, a couple weeks, I guess. Yeah, I mean it's crazy because like let's talk about that moment too when she's like the Jedi are not they're not peacekeepers. They were like policing everybody, and they started the whole war. I really like that perspective because you kind of get that underworld perspective of the Jedi, and you get the sense of how easy it was for Palpatine to say to people like, "Hey, the Jedi betrayed me. They're just out for just out to kill me," and then they wanted to rule everything. And most of the public believed it. The audience is like, "That's not the Jedi. That's not who they are." But
this because they set it up with that's how they set it up, because every time that we see the Jedi in the underworld, they're hunting down a criminal with the lightsabers blazing. They're chasing after people. That's the only thing that we see of them in the underworld.
Yeah, like with those Plo Koon episodes of Plo Koon and Ahsoka tracking somebody, or Anakin and Ahsoka tracking somebody. So you can really kind of see that dichotomy. Yeah,
because like especially we forget how big Coruscant is.
Yeah.
Just with how big of the scale of everything that's happening in the Clone Wars. But then, you go down and I especially love the beginning of the episode when Ahsoka falls off the bike. And you kind of just see how much depth there is literally to like the city as a whole. And it's cool to like actually see that on this scale versus a galaxy wide thing.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see, this arc just kicks off basically as a reintroduction to Ahsoka, but also introducing a couple new characters. I'm excited to see where she's gonna go that leads her back to working with Anakin and Obi-Wan. I'm pretty sure when she left the Order, she also turned in her lightsabers at the time.
She sure did.
She lost them. She lost them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, she lost them in that fight with Barris, right?
Oh, she lost one of them, I think, but she was getting chased and she lost.
She lost one of them
with
in
the
the
fight.
sewer area. Yeah, I remember that.
Wasn't someone trying to sell one? I can't remember.
That was like season 2.
Oh, okay.
I'm interested to see how she's gonna get her sabers back in the long run, and why they're gonna be blue.
Yeah, in the trailer, it shows up to them blue, and then in the Ahsoka novel, they're supposed to be green or green and blue. So it's gonna be interesting to see that whole small retcon thing. But yeah, also I want to ask you guys: do you guys think? Because towards the end of the episode, we see Ahsoka use the Force to try and pull up one of the sisters. I think it was Trace. And do you guys think they're going to find out that she's a Jedi, or is that too cliche? Or what?
No, they're going to find. They're going to find out.
Yeah,
I'm finding out. I think at this point, I feel like Ahsoka is kind of distancing herself from the Force, because like throughout this entire episode, there are a lot of moments where she can use the Force to prevent certain things, but I think she's trying to cut herself off from it.
Brandon, your mic went out again.
Yeah, your mic.
Yeah, but yeah, I would say that I was surprised that like this one where she did use the Force kind of went unnoticed. I mean,
yeah, but besides that little kid,
but I guess so it was kind of like, I feel like it was almost a warning that it was going to happen probably in a bigger way later in the arc, and so yeah, I'd be curious to see. I'm most curious to see the sisters' reactions of like, hey, this is why so many things, because now they're going to be putting all the preconceived notions they have about the Jedi onto her, but except they've learned it backwards. They've learned Ahsoka as a person versus Ahsoka the Jedi.
Is my mic better?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
I wonder how their characters are going to progress in Ahsoka's story, if they're going to stick with her to the Siege of Mandalore or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I hope there's a happy ending for them, because the girl said I really wanted to just get a ship so I can go up in the stars and be able to do stuff outside of Coruscant. So hopefully they make it out. Like, I'm not gonna make any more death predictions after the last arc and nobody died. So
How
how
many happy endings can we predict with the Empire rising around the corner?
I know, yeah, technically it's not like a happy ending, but like, I hope.
I bet there'll be a moment probably in the. Well, I can't remember how many episodes this arc is going to be, because it kind of seems like that based on those April titles, whatever, that it's going to merge into something else. But that aside, I feel like there'll probably be a moment where she kind of feels the urge, or is finally won over, called back into action to team up with Obi-Wan and Anakin. And there'll probably be a moment where they had to part ways and she'll be like, go, I had to go do this. And then hopefully they'll come to some understanding of like, they're not completely mad at her and they kind of just compromise their friendship for the two better goods.
I'm thinking it's probably going to be, this is going to be an overall 4-episode arc where the last 2 or last 1 episode is going to start fueling into the aid for Anakin and Obi-Wan with Ahsoka. But then they'll also get divided, because I still think they're going to lead into the kidnapping of the Chancellor, and then we'll progress over, still following Ahsoka, to the Siege of Mandalore for the Final 4.
Yeah. Those Final 4 episodes are going to be crazy. I can't wait.
I mean, we still haven't got them all yet.
Yeah, I know. Like, are we going to get some more Maul? I mean, maybe not. We don't need a Maul-centric episode, but just like Maul within a certain episode somewhere. Seeing what he's doing and stuff.
He's still ruling Mandalore right now, right?
Yeah, he's not ruler. I mean,
okay,
he's like, it's all that Son of Dathomir stuff. So,
oh yeah, I still want to finish that.
Right, he's like scheming right now. He's basically
okay.
That's what I have to read before.
Yeah, I was trying to reread it. I reread through half of it, so I didn't get to finish it. But
good solid episode. We have probably the biggest news we're going to be talking about today. It was not only revealed for casting, but it's the fact that Ahsoka is going to be in season 2 of The Mandalorian, which is big news. And it was revealed that potentially she's going to be played by Rosario Dawson,
which is a pretty solid casting choice, to be honest.
I agree,
and one that fans have kind of voiced as a cool fan cast. Brandon, didn't you say it started as like a Boss Logic mock-up?
2017.
Yeah,
I think Nathan brought it up.
Yeah, that's crazy. But that's super cool that people were.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, that's when like Rosario Dawson was doing like the Luke Cage stuff, so she was kind of like popular on TV. Mm-hmm. Like, oh yeah, I wonder if she can be Ahsoka. I mean, I was like driving when I got this news, and I got the same reaction to when Benedict Cumberbatch was cast as Doctor Strange, where it's not like super surprising that she's playing Ahsoka, but it is surprising in the sense that she's going to appear in Mandalorian season 2. Yeah, that's where that super surprised me, because I did not think that was going to happen at all.
What do we think is going to be her role? Do you think she'll aid in like the helping of the child going to a safe place?
I think she has to. She has to do something with Baby Yoda in the Darksaber. Maybe helping out, helping to see where Yoda can belong. Because I still think one of my early Mando season 2 predictions, like, they're never going to go to the Yoda homeworld. We're never going to see that.
No,
that's going to be the objective, but they're never going to get there.
That's exactly what I think, Evan. I think basically this season is going to be way more conflict internally with the other Mandalorians, and I don't know if it's going to be over specifically Baby Yoda, but basically this whole conflict that he's got the Empire on them, that's going to, because we really still haven't seen the consequence of that yet, other than basically the desolated Mando little hideout. But I think he's Mando is still going to be adamant on finding Baby Yoda the right place, and I think it's going to ultimately lead to a dead end. And I think Ahsoka may be like a temporary solution, if not the solution to Baby Yoda. And I really don't see Baby Yoda going another season. Like, I feel like,
hot take, interesting.
I'd agree with that. I feel like we're going to I think we'll continue Mandalorian, but I think we're going to step to new heights and new adventures that isn't so like, cause I feel like there's that little extra weight on the Mandalorian with the child being around. So I'm intrigued to see like where things would go if he didn't have that weight attached to him. In terms of just like range of where the adventure can go. I would like to pose the question to you guys, since this is a post-Return of the Jedi world and we will be having Ahsoka appear. Do you think, since this is the Mandalorian, we'll also have Satine appear? Or
Sabine? I really hope so. I'd love for her to like walk in front of him and just like take off her helmet, and he'd be like, "What?" Because the Mandalorians don't take their helmets off.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, like Sabine always took off her helmet. Like she didn't give a crap about all that weird stuff. But
what are you doing?
But that's the weird thing. Okay, so let's dig into this timeline thing. So, is this taking place after the ending of Rebels, or is this where like Ahsoka could appear with the Mandalorian before she goes back to Lothal to go with Sabine onto this Rebel mission to find Ezra? Because I have a hard time believing they're going to look for Ezra, then take a pit stop with the Mandalorian. Is that really what's going to happen?
Right.
It's
and
so
see,
confusing.
that's where I keep doing this backwards thinking too of like, what's Ahsoka's motivation? Because it can't just be coincidence of like, maybe I don't know, maybe there's some more lore stuff of exploring some like artifacts, or I don't know if it wouldn't be artifacts, but I don't know what Ahsoka would be curious about though, like in this whole conflict. And that's where I'm kind of like liking that mystery for Filoni and Favreau to fill in the blank, but it also kind of makes me nervous that it's going to be overly complicated and kind of making the galaxy smaller. But I have trust that they're going to kind of figure it out.
I think that's exactly what I said earlier when I think one of our earlier podcast episodes, we discussed Ahsoka coming on to Mando. And I'm like, we don't need this to happen. It's making it smaller. She's too big of a character, and it doesn't make sense because the ending of Rebels. But, I mean, I'm thinking right now that Ahsoka appears with Mando, and then she and Sabine go to find Ezra. Because just thinking in terms of, like, the next Rebels sequel show, whatever, it's going to be weird to say, like, oh, yeah, we had this weird, fun thing with Mandalorian. It's not animated, so how does that get connected? And it's really weird. But granted, this is all written and produced by Dave Filoni too. So if he's the creator, he's in charge.
If anyone has the timeline figured out, it's
exactly.
Dave.
It's him. So I trust him. It's just very weird to me. I'm like, okay, how is this going to fit in? Is she going to interact with Goff? What's the name? Moff Gideon.
I think so.
That'd be a fun fight. Like my friends and I were talking earlier. Like, could there be a fight scene between Moff Gideon,
the Darksaber versus Ahsoka?
That would for me. That would end in like 10 seconds, right?
Yeah. See, I still think Moff Gideon is still kind of just posing with this thing. Maybe he's very trained, but I don't know. I feel like he just kind of has it as a relic, as a threat.
I don't know, Carson, because Giancarlo Esposito had so many interviews where he's saying
that's true.
Messed up so many Darksabers, and like he has a lot of fight sequences with this thing. So
that's so interesting. I just don't.
It is.
This puts a smile on my face.
Evan,
Evan, but I thought the same thing of Ahsoka just whooping him in like 10 seconds. But who knows?
Evan, did you finish your Rebels rewatch?
I did. Yeah, I cried numerous times.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So at the point, I know Sabine gets the Darksaber. Does she lose it at a point in the show?
No, I mean in season 4 when she goes back to Mandalore to free her father, she frees her father. Everything goes well, but then she gives the Darksaber to Bo-Katan because she thinks Bo-Katan can lead the Mandalorians on a rightful revolution against the Empire, and we know that doesn't go out so well, but it seems so happy in Rebel season 4.
Well, maybe Ahsoka's into this whole conflict is something that, because it's like Sabine and Ahsoka, right, that are going on.
Yeah,
it could be Sabine's like prerogative to be like, hey, we need to go the location of the Darksaber, or like the state of the, maybe she hears about the state of the Mandalorians or something. I don't know.
Ooh,
maybe it goes through that, and then by extension pulls Ahsoka in.
Okay, I mean it's interesting because I always thought of the Rebel sequel as Sabine, Ahsoka looking for Ezra, maybe unknown regions. That's it. But I didn't really consider at this point, given what we know in Mandalorian season 1, they could also be trying to help Mandalore. But then that's also digging into our boy Mando and his role in terms of things.
Yeah, and see, then I feel like if you give Sabine a big conflict, like I was thinking, oh, maybe she's losing hope in finding Ezra, and then she's seeing the present conflict with the Mandalorians, that would kind of draw her away. But then I feel like that takes too much of like the main stuff from the show away from our main guy, and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's so interesting. There's so many different things that can happen. I'm just very curious about the timeline issue because a lot of people on my Twitter were just replying to me saying like, I mean, it makes sense. Ahsoka can just stop by the Mandalorian while she's with Sabine. Sabine can be on the show too. And I'm like, I mean, she could.
I'm like, this is not a Wendy's drive-thru, guys. Like,
exactly. Like, this is what I was talking about earlier last year when we got or maybe it was earlier this year. I don't know. When we got all the news about Mandalorian season 2 is going to feature a lot of Star Wars characters in it. Remember that
Skywalker Saga?
Characters. I mean, maybe that includes the Rebels. Maybe the Rebels were on that whole. They were on that mural at Celebration, so maybe. But, but yeah, I'm just so curious to see. Like, I don't want too many characters in Mando season 2. That's going to take away from Mando. Heck, I didn't even want Baby Yoda in season 2, but he's coming back for season 2 as well.
Nathan didn't even want him past the finale.
Yes,
I thought so too. I was with Nathan. I was with Nathan.
Mr.
I'm like,
Old Yeller.
It's a prediction.
I was with Nathan. I thought it wasn't going to happen. I thought they were going to ditch Yoda somewhere else, but yeah.
They give Favreau the call on set. They're like, we haven't got the Build-A-Bear yet out, Favreau. we got to keep him.
We got to keep him around.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm intrigued to see if they're gonna go the route of Sabine going back for the Darksaber, or I posed the theory like forever ago, but I'd be curious if they're going to go the route of having Mando wield the Darksaber for at least not like continuously, but maybe for just like a scene or two.
I think so too. Maybe he grabs it in a fight. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
We have another viewer. What's up, Jack Skywalker 01? It's a friend of mine. What's up, Jack?
Hey, what's up?
Hello. But I also want to talk to you guys about one of the major stuff people keep talking about here, and that's the whole Ashley Eckstein of it all, and how she's not involved. Oh, that is the debate. Yeah, I forgot about that.
I'm sure creatively with character execution she'll be involved.
Creatively, they're going to give her a phone call.
Well, it's her character that she's.
They'll let her know. I bet
it's Filoni's character. I mean, yeah.
But, it's her performance.
I'm kidding. Yeah, I think they'll give her a phone call. But yeah,
the debate going around has been if they're going to pull like Darth Maul and Solo with Sam Witwer, if they're going to pull the voice, and I feel like if they were to do that, Ahsoka would have to have a lot of limited time with the screen. It's not that it's not possible. It's just it seems like a tricky maneuver.
It's jarring, especially in full non-hologram live action.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
100%.
But I contend that the best case scenario here is just, especially because of the time period that's probably going to be like after Rebels, and Rosario Dawson will just be doing her own. Obviously, it's going to be like Ahsoka, but it's going to be like an Alden Ehrenreich to Harrison Ford. It's going to be a version of it that makes sense, but is yet kind of its own thing. And I'm okay with it being, not trying to be a copy or having it dubbed over.
Yeah, somebody did also bring up the clear thing when you think about it that Matt Lancer and Hayden Christensen don't sound the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we're fine there. So,
but again, and like that was like animation, so people kind of gave that a pass. But going into live action, people are going to be a little bit more particular. But even then, I think it'll be fine. I think Rosario Dawson's a trained actress. She can mold her voice to sound a little bit like Ashley Eckstein's, maybe older. So
it intrigues me just from like, because it also popped in my mind that Ashley's voice is in the live action since Rise of Skywalker. So.
Oh man.
Yeah, whatever. That's fine.
That was a thing. That was a thing. Yeah, that happened.
I'm honestly, we should talk about this for a second. I'm more intrigued about how the Mando crew is going to handle the makeup of Ahsoka, especially.
Filoni's got it covered.
For, as like the Twi'lek, what are they called? The Lakoons. In Clone Wars, she's moving around. Those kind of have a natural movement to them as well. It's not just like a set thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm getting super curious how they handle the blend of like maybe some polishing with ILM versus like what's on the costume.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I trust the whole Star Wars department to be fully on board with the whole makeup stuff. I mean, it seems super extensive, but I think it'll work out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of different ways like they can go about it. ILM is pretty handy, they'll figure it out. So overall it's intriguing. But I think we basically got everything covered with that. So moving on, we have another surprise came out today. There was a drop of the synopsis for the Disney Plus Cassian Andor series, whenever it may show up. But
we've been waiting for the synopsis since we were 6 years
old. But I got the synopsis right here. I'll read it out loud.
Cool.
Following the adventures of rebel spy Cassian Andor during the formative years of the rebellion and prior to the events of Rogue One, a Star Wars story, Diego Luna will reprise the role of Andor, which he originated in the 2016 film. The rousing spy thriller will explore tales filled with espionage and daring missions to restore hope to a galaxy in the grip of a ruthless empire. Ooh. So what we knew, but like, it's intriguing to hear like it's going to specifically focus on espionage stuff. So I feel like we're going to get like some spy thriller-esque stuff in the midst of also war-related stuff.
You think there'll be some more friendly fire? He'll be like, it's okay.
Oh, absolutely. I think we'll definitely.
What most intrigues me about this synopsis is exactly what you said, Nathan, but also kind of like we get a lot of power vacuum stuff on the Empire side.
Yeah.
I would love to see reverse what that formation or what that struggle is, not having a fully fledged, hierarchy of things, like what that looks like for the Resistance and Rebellion, sorry. But yeah, I would love more like, I think the show is going to have some great action, don't get me wrong, but I hear political thriller vibes and I think of like, give us some juicy argument scenes. I don't know, like I'm not like full on politics, but I want some more grounded stuff too in this show.
I'd be down for some more Mon Mothma if they wanted to go that
route. Give me Mon Mothma.
Bring her in there. Yeah, that'd be awesome. But when I hear espionage, spy thriller, I just get super excited because one of my favorite shows of all time now is The Americans from FX, and like the person who wrote and show ran The Americans is also doing the Cassian Andor series as well. So I'm super excited about that. And similar to The Americans, I'm very excited for Cassian Andor. Kind of like the opposite of Mandalorian in a way, but like Carson said, I want it to be more drama. Like I want some good conversations, good like small espionage stuff, a little more of a gray area there. I'm very excited for it all.
I'd be interested if they were to showcase because Brandon did bring up the Cassian killing informants. I would be intrigued to see maybe if they were to go to show like the first time he actually had to make that hard decision to kill someone to save the rebellion's chances of survival.
Mm-hmm.
And like how that affects him, like when he first does that.
Yeah, because I know this wasn't their intent when they shot Rogue One, but when he shot him with ease. Like it wasn't his first time doing that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm willing to bet we'll get more of that because he killed that guy with ease.
Do you guys
and I think
do you guys think we'll kick off with K2 already with Cassian, or do you think we're going to see the reprogramming?
Well, Cassian will get thrown in, and K2 will be
you're being rescued.
K2 is going to be like K2 is going to try and kill Cassian, and he's going to be like, "Oh wait, join a better," just like in Solo.
Oh yeah, just like how you met Chewie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hope not, but I think they are. You know what I mean? I think they're gonna show how they met. But even though we already kind of got that in a comic book that nobody else read, like it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that good of a comic book. It was pretty bad. But they already kind of showed how they met, so we don't really need to see that. I really just want to start off like they're already cool with each other. I want to see Cassian doing bad things like killing his allies.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're gonna have, we're gonna kind of have a little bit of a reverse Jyn Erso in the sense that, we hear the classic, the now memed line of "I've been in this fight since I'm 6 years old." I don't think like his character is gonna be much different from that aspect in the beginning of this show, but I think he's gonna be different in other ways where he's gonna be maybe struggling to convince other people or just struggling to decipher everything around him. And I think that's where his conflicts are going to come in versus I think he's going to be very still the rebel fighter that he is in the beginning of the show.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys think we'll get any Krennic?
I doubt it.
I doubt it as well. Ben Mendelsohn is a great get.
I don't want Empire I mean, obviously I want to see all the Empire presence from the Rebel perspective in this show. That's just me though.
Okay.
Who do you
because we have so much Empire stuff that it's like.
That's true. We have way too much stuff. We already see it like in Mandalorian too. Like, who do you think are the antagonists going to be then in Cassian Andor? Like smugglers, random.
I think troopers. I think troopers and some like random officer that isn't going to hold much to the regular Star Wars universe.
Give me shady senators. Give me people that can't be trusted. Give me like people that are like, hey, I'll do this favor and then I'll give you these supplies, like stuff like that. And maybe people in the underworld that are trying to get supplies or try to move something. Those kind of people. But I think I don't know. Do you guys think there's going to be like one big antagonist? Like that's a good question, Evan, because I don't know if it's going to be more of just the journey of like building this.
Well, for Mandalorian, did you ask us or ask Evan?
Oh, anybody, but
you can go ahead. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, Mandalorian didn't have a set antagonist till the final 2 episodes, so I have a feeling. Yeah. I have a feeling that we'll have little mission he goes on, and there's going to be some douchey officer that finds out what's going on, and he's going to start stepping in a little bit.
Yeah, and try and track some throughout the series. Maybe, and then
isn't Cassian a limited series?
Yeah, but like kind of like a villain that you use for episodes 1 through 6 or whatever, and then he dies at the end because he's just an Imperial officer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's a good idea. I like that. Idea. Do you think, speaking of like the whole corruption and the whole Senate stuff, are they going to dig into Cassian being a separatist, like we learned in the Rogue One novel? This guy is a separatist.
I totally forgot about that.
Will we see him like?
He's been in this fight since he was 6 years old. Carson.
I know, Carson. Come on.
Are we going to see him as a 6-year-old?
But that's the interesting thing because we learned about it in the Clone Wars, where throughout all 6 seasons, you're kind of learning that the separatists are the bad guys, but then you come across some good separatists, kind of like Ahsoka's like love interest she meets. I forget his name right now.
Right. But and I think it will be an instance of, and this is a whole thing of like trusting Cassian comes into play. I think people are going to have grudges against him, and I think it's going to be hard for him to make allies in the beginning of the show because maybe that baggage is something that weighs. Like it wasn't something he wasn't aware of until he really started being like a bigger part of this fight, and I think that's gonna like kind of limit him in the beginning of the show.
Yeah, because clearly they show like he's not the one of the guys that's part of building the rebellion. I'd like to see him on his own trying to fight against the Empire on his own, and yeah, still balancing that separatist life, like even though they're disbanded, him like holding to those values that the separatists held, and then realize, hey, come join the rebellion. They have a pretty big going right now. We could use people to
They
take
seem
down the
pretty
Empire.
popular.
Do you think-
Or maybe they don't want him. That would be a cool option. Like he's like interfering with their missions in the beginning, and so there's like, he's like, hey, we're fighting for the same cause, but there's that much distrust in the rebellion in the beginning, like because it's not blossomed yet.
That's interesting.
That
Because
works
do you
too.
think he's going to cling more to his separatist roots, given that the Republic formed into the Empire?
That's where I was going. I think because you guys are saying like maybe they don't trust him because he's a separatist, but the separatists were kind of right in the way. Like the Republic was corrupt, and that was one of the major talking points. Why, like, whenever Ahsoka or Anakin are like, "Why are you separatists?" They're like, "Well, we think the Republic is corrupt, and we want to go our own way." And I think the Republic, which became the Empire, they're on the wrong end of things. So I think as a separatist, he's kind of like, yeah, we kind of were part of this war too, but we were also kind of right in the sense that we didn't want to be with the Republic that eventually became the Empire.
I think people post Clone Wars probably still have grudges about that, even though, maybe like Evan said, like they're kind of right, like, but I think people are, not that easily like, oh, maybe I should have thought of it this way, like.
People aren't civil? What's going on?
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. I can see them being that like, oh yeah, even though the separatists weren't a part of what happened, they were still a crucial part of the awful things that went on during the Clone Wars. So, I mean, yeah, there's like that classic line in I forget what it was, Revenge of the Sith or the Clone Wars. Like, there's heroes on both sides. So yeah, both sides of the conflict. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. So
that's in the first paragraph of Revenge of the Sith, right?
That's what it was. Okay, yeah. Yeah, which is why I love that crawl. One of my favorite crawls. So yeah, very conflicted, a lot of interesting depth. I hope they dig into Cassian deep in this series. I can't wait.
Oh, absolutely. And with that, we are going to move to our next topic, which is I'm probably the only one who really gives a damn that much about this topic, but it's real animations in the Star Wars universe. Start off, I'm going to talk about the new episode of Galaxy Adventures they had. Specifically, it was about Leia Organa, which I'm even like queued it up on my phone again to refresh. It's cool to see the art style again and just like the journey. There's a lot of cool moments that get re-envisioned. Like you get to see like a tad more of Leia's training of Rey. A lot more stylistically chosen. Art style is just fantastic.
I love the I don't know if it's extended, but the Leia's farewell on give me the name of the Resistance base of Force Awakens. I can't remember. Dakar. May the Force be with you. I love and just it just makes me miss Carrie, man. It just makes me miss like her. It just seeing quite literally the transformation of the character of Leia. It's kind of like in vein of last week's episode that we talked about, the Rey episode, where it kind of documents her whole journey in a sense. This is kind of a similar thing, and I love what you said, Nathan, of like the Galaxy Adventures. Kind of, it does a good thing of like summarizing, but also expanding on moments to just make a really cool montage of things.
Yeah, it's cool to like lock in like even like younger viewers it's intended for, so that they'll have their interest peaked to maybe like it could be a stepping stone to the actual films and stuff.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I really liked this one. It was very cool. It was very I loved all the transitions too from Leia from A New Hope, and then seeing how she transitions to what we see as a general, from princess to general to I guess Jedi Master in The Rise of Skywalker.
I also like how this episode kind of reinterpreted lines that we already know in different contexts. Like,
what are you looking at me for? Follow him.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, and that's a good final line because those last couple shots and those good transitions of like each different generation of Leia and the generations that she inspired is standing behind them, and then you kind of get that line at the end of the new generation, the torch being passed, which is super cool.
Oh yeah. We also had the first episode of the rollouts, or maybe not the first, but this called chapter.
Ben
the only one
Solo
we
the bugs.
actually,
Let's
it's the only
go.
one we actually care about. I think they had
because this is
they had a
young
fin
Ben
episode
Solo
before
content
that.
been waiting for.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot more silly because it's they're all BB-8 droid kids, but
it was fun to watch.
Again, artistic freedom aside, it effectively is telling a potential story one can explore in a different medium. And it's a lot of great moments, like the fact that Han and Chewie are still out running missions. It looks like Han was even like trying to sneak past Leia at a point because it's Han. But
because he needs some time off from being a father. He needs to go hit up a bar or something.
He fell asleep during the Jarek with Chewie, I saw. But it's just great. Like Ben just follows them around everywhere because he wants to be like his dad. He's like trying to mess around with controls on the Falcon. Just thought of that like for real. Is adorable.
You want to know where my canon brain went?
Okay.
Oh no,
my canon brain, having just read The Rise of Kylo Ren, was like, the blurbs of Snoke and Palpatine like meddling in his head as like he's along for the mission with Luke and Lor San Tekka. I'm like, how early did this start? And I'm thinking of the little baby Ben Solo ball. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Snoke. How are you doing, man?
No.
It reinforces that tragedy for sure. But
I love to see the like Chewie was up in a tree and then Ben also did the same. I like to imagine that was one of memories that Chewie threw at Ben in the Rise of Skywalker novel.
Uncle Chewie, yeah. I really loved it too. It was really fun. Ben still being not bad, but just what's it called? Like a juvenile type of character. He wants to be like his dad. He wanted to be a pilot, and that's kind of reinforced there. I would have had some extra information too if I actually finished reading that one. What was it called with the young Ben Solo book? I forget what it was called.
Oh, The Awakening or whatever. Wait, is that? No, I'm thinking of the.
It's one with Han and Lando and like baby Ben. Was,
Last Shot.
Last Shot, yeah. It kind of reminded me of all the stuff from Last Shot where you had Ben living on Coruscant and
Lando coming to visit. Yeah,
Lando coming to visit. But it was nice. It was really cool. Again, it's very tragic because this is a young Ben character being very childlike and fun and stuff. But then we also know what happens later in his life, and he never got to be his true self, which we kind of see here. Even though it's the rollouts, it's kind of like his true version. He just wants to hang out with his dad, wants to hang out with Chewie, wants to hang out with his family until they kind of aren't prepared for what happens next with his force powers.
Ben's still alive. It's okay. Moving on. In The Rise of Kylo Ren, we have caught up. We've all read all 4 issues. So spoiler, I love this so much. This is a great comic. Like especially just the further progression of just like seeing why Ben turns because he has such that burden from both sides of his family of a Skywalker and a Solo, and how he ultimately describes himself as he's not his own person. He's a literal legacy that they all want him to live up to. Like he's named after Obi-Wan, a Jedi he's never even met but expected to be like.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, but it's a very well told story of how it progresses.
Yeah,
I finally finished the last 2 issues, and Evan's been preaching it for the last 2 weeks. Need to finish. I'm like, okay, I will, and it did not disappoint. Like Nathan was saying, like just the progression of especially like each encounter with the 3 Jedi that he kind of trained with, and then him being with the Knights of Ren, kind of literally pushing and pulling between those 2 groups. And I love like the whole sense of having to prove himself once again, or for the first time. Everyone just expects stuff out of him, but with the Knights of Ren, he has to like literally prove, like I think they call it a good death or whatever.
Yeah,
I think it's a super interesting concept.
Which then comes back to fruition in the last issue when they're kind of like finally testing out who Ben Solo really is, and Ben Solo is not prepared for all this death. He's not prepared for the Knights of Ren killing people innocently. I do love that one shot where instead of trying to kill him, he decides, let me just go inside this guy's mind, and we kind of get the first look at Ben actually using his Jedi, or I guess his dark side mind trick or mind
and then they still
shadow.
and then they still killed them all anyways.
And they still killed him anyways. Which
and
is
the
crazy.
good reaction there is the Knights of Ren line, like, oh, it's maybe you're proving more useful than we thought, or than Snoke thought to be. He's literally just an asset to these people, and it makes it even more tragic. And it makes me wish that the Knights of Ren, not even the Knights of Ren, but like the lingering of those dynamics between the people at the temple, like kind of played some sort of flashback role in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
I love when Ben is actually in the movie Rise of Skywalker. He's amazing for most of his dialogue. Obviously not the Rey Palpatine stuff, but I wish, we talk about like the legacy stuff. I wish that would have been more present in Ben's arc in Rise of Skywalker versus like throwing it all onto Rey. It's like we already had that character in Ben, and it's like it's so silly to like just reiterate it in such a clustered way onto a different character when it's been sitting there the entire time, and you've been pointing at it in both The Force Awakens and Last Jedi.
And doesn't even get addressed heavily in Rise of Skywalker.
No, which is mind-boggling.
Hurts.
But yeah, digging into the Rise of Kylo Ren. Now that we've all kind of read the 4 issues, there's something I want to talk about, and that's an issue, I think it's 1 or 2, when it comes to the Jedi Temple and the lightning strikes down on it.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very controversial subject because a lot of people were like, see, this is evidence that Ben Solo didn't strike down Luke's temple, even though Ben takes ownership of it in The Last Jedi. He says, do you see what I've done to Luke's temple, or something like that to Rey.
Well,
he takes ownership of it later on, but do you guys think he caused that unintentionally? Or
yes.
Because it could go either way.
Well, because
like, when I was reading through it, I didn't like. I was just like going through it, and like the main issue I saw he was focusing on is he brought down his own hut on Luke, but that was, and then he looks over and he's even like thrown off that the temple is on fire.
He's surprised. Yeah, he's shocked. But then later on, we see like Ben yelling at the sky in a way, kind of like very Lion King-esque, where he's like, what should I do? This isn't what I wanted. But then as soon as he's very angry, you see the lightning in his eyes, and then you see the lightning strike down in the temple, and then he's surprised. But this could just be another example of what we heard from Luke in The Last Jedi, where he's like, this is untamed power, untamed potential. Like that could just be Ben unintentionally doing that.
I think it accident, is.
Which is extremely tragic because at the same time, this isn't what he wanted, but it's something that he did. So something that he takes ownership of too. So very crazy.
Yeah, it's like the full effect of that legacy and the raw power within him just like all coming out at one moment, I think. And I think his reaction to it is like, oh, at first, like he didn't want to do that. But then I like the shift later in this where he claims it because, again, going back to that whole thing of like trying to prove stuff, he's like, oh, I killed Luke. Oh, I destroyed the temple. And so it's really interesting because it's like it's quite literally Ben unintentionally destroyed it with the lightning and Kylo destroyed the temple. So you kind of have the flip of both sides of the character there. And I kind of like that shift.
From Ben to Ren, yes.
From Ben to Ren.
I mean, that's one of the things I really liked in the comic book. There's a lot of instances of Ben toying with the light and the dark in a sense, where he's struggling with this legacy thing, and he's trying to like not fight. For example, he's not trying to fight his past Jedi friends, but when they confront him, he quickly changes his expression to that of darkness. He changes like, okay, I'm gonna have to do what I have to do, but I really don't want to do this at the same time. Like he's really juggling these dichotomies within him at the same time, and it's really illustrated very well in his facial expressions. I just love all the artists.
Yeah, there's a lot of frames put together that kind of show literally Ben, Ren. And,
exactly. Yeah, I love that.
Last thing I like to mention is so Rey shows up and barely in the last issue, I believe.
I was confused about that.
How? Well, explain, Brandon,
because he has the connection with I can't remember the Jedi's name. The one he's fighting up on, with him, and that's why he's like, oh, I have a special connection with Ben. I can handle this. And then he goes up there and starts fighting, and then I don't know. Is this when? I think this is when Palpatine interjects. It's like
not yet, right? I think. Wait, does he?
Well, it's interesting. It goes from
go one frame over. I think Palpatine's on the next one. Yeah, he's at the bottom there.
But that's after Ty's.
That's after. Okay.
Yeah, that's after Ty's death.
This is when he's fallen and he's fighting Ren.
But real quick though, I want to talk about the discussion he's having with Ty while he's fighting Ben, because that's one of my favorite parts of the entire series. Because in a sense, Ty is exclaiming all the things that the audience really wants from Ben. Like, Ben, again, it was kind of what I was teasing last podcast. I couldn't really give spoilers, but remember when I said it was all about that choice? That really kind of
right. And I think there's a line. There's a line there. It's like the road goes both ways, or the.
Yeah,
you can walk both ways. You
can walk away. You can become a Jedi. Even though Luke's dead, you can become a force for good in the galaxy. You can go around and train other Jedi. You can do all these good things in the world. Nothing is stopping you from doing that.
Right.
But then
it's a precursor to Rey. It's a precursor to
exactly
what Rey is telling him and what Rey discovers about Ben throughout the sequel trilogy, which is
So
cool.
good. Yeah, it's hidden in there. It's in there. Ben could do that, but again, he's fighting back in a way, even though he really wants that from Ty, and he really wants to be that person, that force for good. But he feels like he's burdened down by that legacy, by that darkness too. So he feels like he can't do that. But at the same time, he also doesn't kill Ty. He decides not to kill Ty, and he kind of like gives in. And I think if Ren didn't show up at that point, he probably would have gave in to Ty. I think it really worked, except Ren came in and then killed Ty. And then that's another example of Ben having his options taken away from him. Of another example of Ben not having that choice. So
yeah, I love to see the manipulation of like how caring and open Snoke was in the beginning, to like really entrap him, and it was so fascinating to see, like, it's like the whole time we've been following Snoke's words, but then it like swaps over to Palpatine because he's talking through Snoke.
One thing I did like along that path is when he succumbs to all the voices, and he realizes that he's in charge of the Knights of Ren now. He cracks his crystal, and all the people from his past are like hovering over him.
I love that.
It's a great shot.
The crystal.
Yeah, Rey. I mean, not Rey. It was like you get like Leia, Han.
Yep, Lando's in the top right too.
Lando's in there. Uncle Lando. Yeah.
Chewie.
Uncle Chewie. There's a lot of uncles. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I loved to see that. It was. I know there was like a more extreme version of when Vader bled his crystal.
Yeah, great shot.
And I love.
This one was fantastic.
Oh, what was it good? Oh, I love the final frame of this comic, of issue 4.
Oh, they ask him what is his name.
Yeah, and he doesn't say it, and I love that it doesn't say it. It just says it. You take all the meaning just in that image, and you don't have to it doesn't have to be put.
It's not screaming at you like, "Hey, this is what it is." Which is what I was saying last week. I'm like, it's very nuanced, and I really like that. Just like his character, it's very nuanced and filled with depth.
I especially love the whole scene when he's falling down fighting Ren, and he gets the connection with everybody. Like you have Palpatine and Snoke there, but also you get the connection with Leia. She picks up what's going on,
which is so tragic.
It's really heartbreaking. But then also Rey gets a tremor of it, which is
she says it's very cold. Yeah,
she's just there with one car, which it was beautiful to see because they are the dyad that's connected.
They're a dyad in the Force. Snoke didn't create that. It's created by the Force since they were born, and I love that. Yeah.
Beautiful. That was fantastic to see. Did the Reylo good?
It was awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I loved it. I mean, you had brought up too. I was unsure what it was at first, but like since you really brought it up, when he bled his crystal, it had literally bled.
Yeah, he was literally they called the process 2 years ago. Like, oh, this is the process of bleeding your crystal. Kylo Ren, Ben, he actually bled his crystal. He was bleeding when he cracked his own Kyber crystal, nearly halfway. Yeah.
It was
what's up, Warsam?
It was fascinating to see the crystal because when I first saw it, I thought he had actually broken it into two.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Like Cal did, but no, in this instance, it was just like a lot of the core was missing, but it was still connected into. And I loved when he first tried it out, and it was so unstable.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh crap, I'm gonna have to need some."
So he had to. build the exhaust crossguard, which was beautiful to see.
I like it. It makes me think of this is a silly detail, but like the smoke of that, the exhaust of that, it's just like the Knights of Ren ship like smoking. It's just so much funny now. So I imagine a Knights of Ren ship with the crossguard like exhaust in the back. Mm-hmm. Like he's like, we gotta retrofit the ship. It's not running right. And they're just going around with the crossguard.
Yeah, I imagine the Knights of Ren in the front of the ship are like, what the heck is going on back there? It's like, what is this guy doing?
It cuts to that wide, and it's like the red lightning throughout the entire.
Yeah, I bet one of the Knights was like in the bathroom, like, holy crap, what is going on right now? We had this guy for less than a day. Yeah, less than a day, then Ben's already wrecking crap. But yeah, I really, one of my small negatives, I really wish we had a one-on-one scene with some of the Knights of Ren, in the sense, like in the same way that we got a lot of like the dialogue from the Inquisitors in the Darth Vader comic book. I really wish we got more talk from the Knights of Ren.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff I loved seeing with Luke. I loved seeing like a Luke, it's that dream image from the EU of Luke in his prime training the Jedi. He looked pretty cleaned up. He had R2 there. It was a peaceful place. And even like Ben was just he was trying to excel. He was being a respectable student, but like he was also a kid at the time, so he has that impatientness. So like even when he was going off with Lor Santeca and Luke to the temple,
tragic scene first of all.
Oh yeah,
I love that. And this is in issue 2, I think, right, Nathan? The Lor Santeca.
Yeah.
And I love that scene because it's Ben believing in the myth of Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And we see that dwindle throughout Ben's life, all the way up to that climax in The Last Jedi. And I don't know, there's something so powerful about the young Ben just yelling at the Knights of Ren, like, that's Luke Skywalker, like, I don't know. That's just such an awesome moment and just makes everything more tragic in Luke's doubt, in Ben's just being tossed around all these things and all these opinions about him and all these choices. And I think, I don't know, just seeing young Ben just believe in something and believe in Luke and just knowing the failure that's ensuing in the future, it hurts.
Yeah, he's the biggest Luke Skywalker fan. Yeah.
I think I think especially with issue 2, I think it heightens Last Jedi even more for me for a number of reasons. Especially in regards he is like, this is the legend Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. Like, he's on the defense of his uncle. He really believes in him, but then also with the Ren leader giving that option, like, oh, I do sense the darkness in him, but like even in that moment, Luke is really on the defensive, just like, get out of here, leave my nephew alone, because he already had his father turn to the dark side. He doesn't want his nephew to. He really is in defense of him, and with Ben already with his caring for his uncle so much, the bigger heartbreak that when he does confront him in the hut and Luke does activate the saber and Ben doesn't know what's going on, that's
you're right,
more heartbreaking for both Ben and Luke, where they end up.
This is the guy he looked up to. This is the guy that when Han and Leia couldn't handle him, this is the guy they brought him to. And that's, in a way, Ben was, I imagine, initially upset over Han and Leia initially just dumping him at Luke's door. But then when he got to know Luke, once he understood the legend that is Luke, he felt a trust inside Luke. He loved him. He felt like, okay, this guy had my back, unlike my mom and dad might. So I really have to trust in this guy. And Luke, like Mark Hamill said, Luke thought Ben was the chosen one. He thought Ben was going to be the person to inherit Luke's legacy. So when it makes, again, that moment so more.
Nathan, your whole breakdown of that made me think of in Last Jedi, of how it heightens the hut scene of, like, he sees Luke's shadow, and it kind of echoes back to the Ren line of I can't remember what he says in issue 2, but he's like, when I ignite this, it's the death blade or something. Like I don't. He's like, I don't put it down till it kills somebody. And so he's seeing just Luke's shadow of doubt in that moment and perceiving the lightsaber that way. It kind of makes me think about that.
Wow, that's a great pull. That's a great, yeah, that makes sense.
It also makes it even more. I mean, pre the Palpatine thing, but it makes it more rewarding to see him take out Snoke in Last Jedi, because it's just the master manipulator thing here. Sever that tie is great. I really liked. I was thrown off for a second because I don't really remember my canon. When Snoke gets a transmission from General Hux.
Yeah, that was cool.
Brendel Hux, not Armitage Hux, that we know.
And Snoke is like, I have other friends in the galaxy, Ben. Like, kind of like.
Yeah. No, yeah, Evan. That was.
Was it Brendel at that time? I thought it was just Hux.
Yeah, it said Brendel, and I know.
Oh, okay.
I know Armitage is the one we follow with Donald.
Interesting. Yeah, so I guess Brendel dies a year or two after that phone call, I guess. But yeah, I mean, going back to Luke Skywalker, one of my favorite lines is when he's talking to who is it? He's talking to Vo in issue number 3, I think. Either 2 or 3. And Vo is very upset because she's not as skilled as Ben Solo. And then Luke calmly says, he walks up to her and says, like, the Force is kind of like
a door.
A door. It's like some can push it easier than others. Like, it's just as simple as that. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not that like Ben will always be stronger than you. He just has like kind of like a stronger potential than you. And it's kind of a good reasoning for why Rey is so strong. It's like, all right, and before the Rise of Skywalker, of course, but it's kind of like, yeah, even some people are just inherently at a higher level initially than other people are. I mean, you see that in a lot of TV shows and anime and stuff like that. It's like certain characters are already at this level, and some characters have to just train harder to get to that point. It's not that Ben will always be stronger than
right,
Bo.
and that's so central to Ben's conflict. Like the one Jedi says, the path goes both ways, and it's like you have to absorb and accept and learn how you operate from both sides of the spectrum. And I think that's so central to people surrounding Ben at first, the Jedi in the temple, but also Ben going forward and seeing that he can go against what he's quote unquote destined to be.
Yes.
Yeah, it was I loved seeing Luke's general character developed, like, because it's older. It's not original trilogy Luke, it's older Luke. So I liked seeing how much of how sage-like he is, but also how how much humor he has as well, like Mark Hamill has. Now it really felt like a perfect transition into probably the no negatives, but like probably the Luke Skywalker Mark expected to come back playing as.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense. Not a negative at all. It's like, yeah, this is a Luke we always quote unquote wanted to see, like a wise Luke. I mean, I like seeing a flawed Luke in The Last Jedi, but this is kind of like the Luke of old that people expected, which is kind of nice to see that dichotomy there too.
You love to see your favorite characters happy.
Exactly. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Yeah.
Speaking of people falling to the dark side,
what
I have. Oh, am I good to transition real fast, or are you guys still?
Well, I still want to discuss The Rise of Skywalker because there's some stuff I wanted to say about.
Yeah, I still had some stuff too, but what did you want to bring up?
Yeah,
I was going to talk about Dooku Jedi Lost. About people turning to the dark side, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, we'll get to that afterwards. I got a lot to discuss there too. But also in the last issue, when he's fighting Ren, I talked about this with Nathan earlier. All that lightning that's coming down, is that figurative or literal to you guys?
I was suddenly thinking about that, like amidst our talking just now.
I think figurative.
Do you think
figurative? Yeah.
Do you think it could be literal from the sense of the Force bondness type ability that maybe he's having with Snoke? I mean, it doesn't have to be like he's like standing around to shoot lightning, but like some sort of like focused power around,
or some kind of raw power. Because it goes back to the lightning strike that struck the Jedi Temple. Like if that was Ben, if that was an example of Ben's raw power, could we have seen that when he was fighting Ren? I mean, granted, I think it's also a little bit figurative as well. At some points, but also it could just be literal. It's very fascinating.
I would interpret it as, you know, those like cars you get as a kid that wind up and wind up and wind up with those, you like pull back on the table. It's like something like that, where it's like Ben is pulled back so far that it just kind of like sparks go and unleash, and it's, you know, the climax of this series. And so I think it's fitting, like you guys said, both figuratively and literally.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One of the things I really liked, I liked that a lot of the ships they had, where they looked like they were really pieced together. Like the main ship they were flying on looked like a mix of like part X-wing and Y-wing, and maybe even like a B-wing.
Yeah.
But I really loved Ben's ship specifically because it looked very much modeled after the Falcon.
That was so cool. Yeah.
So great.
A cool moment is when the droid is like, "Oh, I've set a course to Hazian Prime," and we're like, "Oh." And it cuts right to a frame of Leia, because he Hazian Prime Leia, and you're like, oh, damn! Right after this huge moment,
yeah. Isn't that scene so good? Because like that's all it took is one decision. All Ben had to do was go to Leia, and everything's changed. Like Leia was that one person that always believed in Ben.
Yeah, and if he would have made that choice, Luke is still alive, and there would have still
exactly. If people just talked, to one another and just had civil conversations and didn't feel burdened by legacies, by guilt, by darkness. All it takes is one choice. Oh, one bad day, right? Like the Joker. All it takes is one bad day.
You've unlocked it. Yeah, but it was interesting just seeing the Rey connection. I couldn't get over that. It's so good.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good because it's one of the things I really wanted. Because in like the Darth Vader issue where he saw Luke, even though he never met Luke at that point yet, he just saw like the Force revealed to him that vision of Luke. And then you see Rey, where the Force is kind of like, at least to the audience, like you could tell like he senses Rey or Rey senses Ben. It's so good. It makes sense. They're all connected.
Do you think that since they get a feeling of each other's presence, do you think that adds any layer of depth to their meeting in Force Awakens at all?
I think that adds to her Force vision that she has when she touches the Legacy Saber.
Yeah,
sure.
That wasn't the first time she saw Ren. Yeah,
because yeah, she sees Kylo with the Knights of Ren.
Yeah, now I think she's connecting the dots to the feeling.
I was kind of getting the feeling of like that's maybe why Ben might be so on edge when that one officer brings up that Finn and BB at
what girl?
What girl? Yeah.
Oh. Excuse me.
Until we're accompanied by a girl. I love the sound it makes when he like force.
Me too. Yeah, but yeah, this is the girl Ben probably has been seeing in his visions in moments of anger or something, and yeah, I love it.
They're both in isolation, and I'm sad.
Oh man, Star Wars is tragedy. Don't you love it?
Oh, man.
Cut to Tatooine. But what if we did the sled again down the thing, and then it would just all be rhymed?
Tatooine, a beautiful and peaceful place.
Nathan liked it. Dun, dun, dun.
There's better executions, but I don't think anything's bad. But
oh boy,
go on, Brandon. Do talk the fallen other Jedi.
Okay, I want to put it out here first. I did not expect Dooku to, because like, you know, like every other Jedi that's fallen in the dark side thus far has done so, just being like still part of the Order, but still transitions right there. Yeah, Dooku left honorably. He left the Order honorably to be the Count of Serena. That was the biggest shock to me, and I'm shocked it didn't show his transition to the dark side.
Yeah, I'm shocked, but I really liked it too. Like you, it was very shocking and it caught me off guard too. Because didn't he just send like a phone call to Yoda? Like he woke Yoda up and he was like, "Yo, I'm gonna leave." Yoda's like, "Oh, okay."
It's like I was saying, I was listening to it. There was like an hour left, and he just got to the surrender. I'm like, okay, how are they gonna wrap up his arc and Ventress's arc within an hour? Mm-hmm. And then they do it without him turning to the dark side. I'm like, okay, I see how this went.
And it points to, I think this book is the most critical on the Jedi, and I think it makes so many good points. And this is one of them of like, all right, I'm out. all right, talk to you later. Like it's like so rigid, and then all of a sudden when like push comes to shove, it's like, okay, actually we're just gonna do this. Or, it's not as, I don't know, it's like they act like one thing, and then another scenario presents itself at them. They're like, well, I guess we got to do this now. It's not like,
I agree.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Like I like when he was wanting to turn the saber in, and then Yoda's like, no, title, Jedi title it is, or something like that, and he let him keep the saber.
Oh my god!
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yoda in this book is an actual clown. I will know.
Oh my god!
Yoda
when he sits out for like weeks just meditating, and Dooku's just like, "Come on already, train me!" And then he finally just ends up sitting down, and Yoda's like, "Ready you are."
But that's the thing, though, because I think it's a funny scene, but I feel sympathy or empathy towards Yoda when Dooku gives him that phone call saying, like, I can't be with the Jedi Order anymore. I have to go back to Sereno. And I think Yoda understands it, even though Yoda's kind of like, he's been getting hints of Dooku's little dark side a little bit. But I also feel kind of sad for Yoda. Like, this was an apprentice that Yoda personally trained, unlike some of the other ones. And he picked Dooku to train, thinking he could help Dooku along the path of the light. Because even at an early age, Dooku was doing stuff he shouldn't have done. So Yoda's like, I'm going to train him myself to see if Dooku can become a better person. And the exact opposite happened. He becomes even more corrupted because he sees like the rigidness of the Jedi and a lot of stuff that Yoda says he can't do because of the Republic and stuff.
And it's the same thing it's kind of a different discussion, but the same kind of thing of talking about expectations and potential, and Yoda feeling like, oh, I have this certain expectation of Dooku's potential. I'm going to steer the ship. When really that's kind of out of his control. It's Dooku's choice. And I think Yoda's pressure on Dooku influences a lot in this book.
Like, I thought he was going to turn when they sabotaged his brother in the race. I thought that was his turn there.
Oh yeah,
a little bit.
Good scene.
And then
great scene.
I also thought they would give us the Sifo-Dyas arc, where pretty much I think Dooku kills Sifo-Dyas to create the clone army.
He does.
I thought we would get, because I thought we would get that as well. Because I keep thinking about the Clone Wars episode where Dooku kills the one senator that was with Sifo-Dyas when he died, and Obi-Wan was like, tying up loose ends, some are worth doing personally, with a smile on his face.
I love that episode in season 6. It's so good. Dooku's like, I gotta clean up my mess. I'll do it myself. F it. And then he walks out.
Yeah, and then they find out he's Tyrant. You were the man called Tyrannus.
Yeah, that was a great episode. But also, you know how Anakin, like we saw like in the Clone Wars episode 2, season 7, where he couldn't even tell Obi-Wan about that he was calling Padme. Like he had a lie. And same thing in Dooku Jedi Lost, where he never told Yoda.
He never told anybody.
He didn't have the courage to tell Yoda that he was still calling his sister Jinza, or whatever her name was. Jinza, which is kind of sad because he had a personal connection to his family, which in normal life is a good thing. But
right.
You know, in Jedi,
had that been encouraged, the whole if it would have been not even allowed, but just like normalized and not
exactly. And
so
that
rare.
whole family dynamic is the whole thing that really pulls Dooku to the dark side, because everything that goes on with his family, his pull there,
right? Because of how suppressed it is. At least I think because of how. Yeah, it's just Brandon, you gotta listen to, or read Dark Disciple now if you want to get some good adventurous stuff.
Also, Brandon, so what happens to Jinza at the end of that book? Right, so does he kill her?
He has Asajj kill her.
Yeah, which is crazy because like throughout the whole novel or the whole audio drama, he feels so connected to this person. He feels like his life wouldn't be the same without her. He's always calling her, even in his darkest moments as a Jedi Order. He always tries to stay in contact with his family. But then towards the end, he has Asajj kill her.
Because she has too much info about him, and he didn't want that getting out. So, just worst case scenario, he had her kill. He had her kill her just in case.
I think it's a surface level excuse for him, though. I think on the surface he's like, "Oh, you have too much information about me," which is true, which is a liability for him. But also digging deeper, she's also a person that has like an emotional connection to him, and usually when you go to the dark side, you kind of want to sever that bond, like the same way that Palpatine like killed his entire family in Legends, in the same way Dooku had to kill his sister.
Well, I mean, in Episode 2, Dooku was when Obi-Wan was taken hostage, he was talking to Obi-Wan, and Dooku was like, "Oh, I could use Qui-Gon's guidance right now." He was still holding to the past.
Yeah, but also Qui-Gon still Qui-Gon had similar that kind of ambivalence about the Jedi too, and Master and Apprentice really touches on that.
That's really where I was going to go to. I think, like Carson said, he respected Qui-Gon. I don't think he respected people like Yoda or even his sister towards the end there, because his sister kind of dogged on him towards the end. But I think, he respected Qui-Gon. He liked what Qui-Gon understood about the Force in a way.
Yeah, because Qui-Gon had doubts, and I think Jedi, one of the Jedi weaknesses is fear of that doubt, and kind of investigating why it's there. And I think both Qui-Gon and Dooku not necessarily like fully lean into that urge, but they're like, hey, this is kind of messed up that X, Y, or Z is happening. We should like do something about it, or whether it's like the slavery thing or the that's a Master and Apprentice, right? I can't remember where.
I haven't read it yet.
It's Master and Apprentice. Yeah.
And in Jedi Lost, I can't remember the specifics, but that planet is like kind of in a crisis, and like their resources are like getting wiped out, or I think there's like, isn't there like their whole thing is like in the sky and it's like falling on them. I can't remember what specifically it is.
I can't remember either. It's some kind of economic crisis though.
But Yoda doesn't want to help out for whatever reason until like the last minute.
When Seife was having that vision of that that environmental crisis, when it wipes out all their pretty much surges an EMP through it, and Yoda's like, "Oh, premonition it is only," and then they go, and Yoda's like, "Fuck,
oops!" Like, and then he's just sitting there for like an hour in a force bubble, like, you idiot, like.
And Yoda's like, "Oh, oops, whatever."
Yeah, Yoda took a lot of L's in this.
He took a lot
audio drama. Or Yoda, but it's so conflicting because Yoda looks in a bad light throughout the Clone Wars, throughout Jedi Lost and Master and Apprentice. But there's also a guy you can respect too. Like you can also kind of see the way he's thinking too, even though he's kind of like on the bad side of things. It's so interesting.
That's why I still like Yoda as a character. Just particularly in this book, you're just like, come on, man.
Yeah. I mean, even in the original trilogy, he gets proven wrong when he's like, Luke, you have to kill Vader or else we will all lose and suffer. And Luke's like, no, I'm just going to do it my way. And Luke ends up being the one that's right. So.
And then he goes to try and kill Kylo.
And then, he doesn't try. It's complicated.
He's like, hey, he was about to. And he's like, oh, wait, what am I doing?
If you guys could please go and read the Yoda passage of certain point of view.
It's sitting in front of me right now.
It's so short.
I still got the library's closed, so I just have a certain point of view indefinitely.
Gotta pay a huge fine when it comes.
Will I read it? I don't know.
Make you read, like, I'm gonna set up a segment where you have to read it live.
Can I make a PowerPoint presentation?
Sacred Jedi texts with Carson.
Yes.
The Sacred Jedi texts read by Carson.
Oh man.
But man,
Lars.
I think Dooku Jedi Lost is a fantastic audio drama. Like, especially after you finished it, Brandon, don't you agree that we should want more of these? Like, we want way more.
Someone replied to Del Rey on Twitter is like, hey, you guys should make more of these. And they're like, oh, if the certain story presents itself, we love to do another one or something.
Certain story? Come on.
I'm like, bruh, there's
High Republic. The High Republic is a certain story. Like, just do that.
I'm gonna go find that tweet and reply phase 2 of Project Luminous.
Get that man off the comic. You're gonna say.
Yeah, you should tweet at
no.
Kevin Scott too. He'll be like, "Yo, come on."
Gotta get it. Those radio dramas. It's such a cool medium. Like Brandon, like you had no idea until you actually listened to it. Like I had no like just the you get so immersed in all this. It sounds so cheesy, but you get so immersed in all the sounds and the voice cast.
And we have one more topic.
Wow.
No, we don't. I just wanted to stick this over Brandon's.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my god.
But on that note, that about does it for our show. We have hit every topic. It was surprisingly we sped through them fast, so that was.
I'm surprised. We're at an hour and 20. I'm like, oh, I guess we're done already. Okay.
We have like 1 to 2. We have like 2 to 3 topics normally, and we go like almost.
Yeah, rate us on Letterboxd. We're under the feature film category.
Well, last podcast we actually like went off on tangents of like other films.
Oh god, yeah, that was
fun. I mean,
we could do that. We're on.
How about Onward coming to actual? You can own it now, and it's coming to Disney.
No, we're not actually.
Hold on.
We're not doing that now. I'm saying we could, since we're all on lockdown. We got nothing else better to do. We could do that.
Hyperspace 2. We're finding another hyperspace lane.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick's corpse is just floating.
But yeah, with that being said, that was a great episode of Hyperspace Hype. It was great being with you guys. We're gonna wrap things up here. Evan, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at HarrisEV9. Very excited for the next episode of the Clone Wars. Really curious to see how Ahsoka reunites with Anakin and Obi-Wan and everything, and see what she's doing on Sector 1313. So yeah.
Absolutely. Brandon, any closing thoughts?
I'm really excited to see how the rest of this arc goes. I'm really excited to dip into the Mandalore arc, which is going to be towards the end of April. I'm super excited for it. Super excited to be back next week and talk more Star Wars with you guys. Have another Clone Wars episode under our belt. And yeah.
Carson, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at The Force Critic. Like these guys said, super excited for more Clone Wars, and I think the stakes are just going to go up every week. It's crazy how we're already halfway through, and of course, I'm ready to speculate more Mandalorian, and just there's so much Star Wars content, even when we're kind of on a mini hiatus of the movies after The Rise of Skywalker, so we'll be back every week to discuss it, I'm sure.
Absolutely, and as always, you can find anywhere from me in the link in the description, as well as the whole crew. But with that being said, from all of us at Hyperspace Hype, if you did in fact enjoy our recording, you can catch us every Friday, and if you did enjoy this, you can hit the like button, subscribe if not already. That being said, hope you have a great day. May the Force be with you always.